you can't play like that. I said, play like what? The way you're playing.
And all of a sudden, Jerry Mulligan asked him to stop. So he stopped and got off the bandstand and went to the back door. So I rushed through the crowd trying to reach him. And by the time I got to the back door, he disappeared down the alley. He was gone.
Blown away by Ornette's playing, Charlie Hayden soon tracked him down.
I said, I heard you play the other night, man. You sounded so brilliant. He said, thank you. He said, not many people tell me that. And I said, man, I just wish that we could play music together sometime. And he said, well, what about now? And so we went to his apartment. That's how I met him, and we played and played and played, and we might have stayed in there for 3 or 4 days, I don't know. So that's when the quartet started.
They're a bunch of young players who are just starting to break out, and whose minds and approaches are still flexible enough that Ornette can work with them.
I never worried about chords, melodies, or keys, only sound. And the thing about it, there's only 12 notes that's satisfying the whole world. 12 notes that's satisfying the whole world. I said, oh man. And then I realized that this note don't have a style. Either you make something out of it or you don't.
Ornette Coleman's The Shape of Jazz to Come didn't initially make the bold impression it has done in the years since 1959.
First, I didn't know what to make of it. You know, I didn't know which pocket to put it in because I hadn't heard anything quite like that. It was a new, far-out approach.
The Shape of Jazz to Come is definitely an audacious title. You know, it's putting yourself out there and saying, you know, this is where jazz is going.
Lonely Woman has been a favorite song of mine and Wilner ever since I heard it when it first came out.
It is one of the greatest compositions ever. I mean, combined with the way his quartet and Ornette played it, everything music could be.
And not a day goes by where I'm not humming that. Then don da 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 da. It's not your standard jazz thing where this guy solos and this one solos and this one solos. This is a real composition that brings all of them together, and they're all such staggeringly great players.
Born from oppression, jazz is at its heart political, and throughout his career, Charles Mingus often integrated his political beliefs with his music.
Charles used his bandstand as a soapbox at all times. He spoke out about his beliefs, about racism, about the inequities in society and the record industry, whatever was on his mind, he expressed.
The most timely and influential track on Mingus' Aham, Fables of Faubus, was no exception. The track spoke of events that took place after the outlawing of segregation 2 years earlier in 1957.
President Eisenhower signing the Civil Rights Bill. It was Monday morning, 10 past 8. Kids going to school all over the country as the president signs. And in Little Rock at 10 past 8, Arkansas National Guardsmen under orders of Governor Faubus challenging the law of the land, preventing 9 Negro youngsters from attending the Central High School in Little Rock.
There was an attempt to integrate a high school in Little Rock, Arkansas, according to the law, according to the Supreme Court of the United States. Governor Orville Faubus, the governor of Arkansas, would not allow integration.
Mingus was outraged by what he saw happening to people. And the irony of the Fables of Faubus is that it's kind of a comic tune.
It has a theatrical quality, and you're expecting this character that's going to be, well, not very fit for public display. And that's certainly the way that he felt about this white supremacist governor of Arkansas.
Then came the Eisenhower-Faubus meeting. Finally, Faubus withdrew the guardsmen, and the Negroes entered the hitherto forbidden white school. A riot started. Confronted with what he called anarchy, the president ordered United States soldiers into Little Rock. The regular army troops, paratroops, escorted the Negro children to and from school, gave them full protection from the threatening crowds.
Charles wrote some smoking lyrics about this, and Columbia Records would not let Charles include these political words on the album. Tell me someone who's ridiculous. And then his drummer would respond, Governor Faubus. And Charles would say, why is he so sick and ridiculous? And Danny would say, 2, 4, 6, 8, brainwash and teach you hate.
Ku Klux Klan, name me someone who's ridiculous, Danny. Governor Faubus. Oh, why are they so sick and ridiculous? 2, 4, 6, 8. The brainwash and teach you hate.
Fables of Faubus, even without the lyric, just the fact that he's using the name Faubus is going to have a very strong message to many of the people who are listening to that album in 1959.
Fables of Faubus opened up a lot of the pent-up feelings that we all had as African-American musicians against racism in America. Kind of set the stage for each of our own individual expression of that opposition to racism.
Yes, we can.
Barack Obama may not know it, but jazz is one of the reasons he was elected president. And Charles Mingus and all of these musicians, they helped to create the atmosphere that led to people respecting a person beyond the distinctions of color.
In the years leading up to Kind of Blue, Miles Davis had begun to make an impact with his own defiant demands for respect, both as a black man and as an artist.
I remember seeing him in Los Angeles at a club. People who turned out were gamblers, pimps, drug dealers, hustling type guys, bragging about who got the most hoes and who got the prettiest hoes, and your hoes should be picked up by the dog catcher, and well, just all that kind of stuff. Now, when Miles Davis came on the bandstand, though, they shut up. They didn't make any noise after he came out there. See, I'd never seen that before. Because these are not the kind of people you can just shut up. And they knew if they got loud and irritated him, he would turn around and leave. And that would be it. He wouldn't come back. Nobody was going to entreat him. Oh, Miles, you won't get paid. I'm not broke. He'd always made his point that when I come in here, I have some kind of artistic goals I'm trying to accomplish, and they do not include you talking while we're playing.
Miles struck me as somebody who would sell a lot of records because of his cool, almost disdainful demeanor on stage worked absolutely in his favor to become a talked-about artist.
Columbia had a very powerful publicity department. They realized what we have to do is we have to create this image of the distant, remote jazz musician who's not available to everybody. We're going to sell them that.
And of course, being remote and unavailable just made everyone dig Miles all the more.
Miles was not just a musical pioneer, he was a pioneer as far as American culture in general. You know, he was an important black figure who made it within this American system. He's reaching white America in a big way.
Freddie Hubbard said when he was in the Village Vanguard, he noticed this repeatedly, that when Miles Davis would play a ballad and put the harmon mute in the bell of the horn and play in the lower register, he said every woman's legs in the club opened. And he said the first time he thought he was hallucinating, that it was not really happening. He said he said they didn't even know they were doing it. He said they would all just open up.
He was a dude, man, a dude, but beautiful. So sexy, if you really want to know the truth. He's got a very elegant, low-key sound. You know, the women liked him a lot. Look at all the wives he had.
While 1959 saw America beginning to find its groove, beneath this shiny surface lay deep fears brought about by the Cold War with Russia. As part of a program of cultural détente, the American government asked Dave Brubeck to take jazz and its American values to the East.
Our government wanted to impress people that were right on the border of Russia about our culture. President Eisenhower wanted us to go along the perimeter of Russia. And we opened in Poland, and then went to Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Iran, Iraq. We were going to represent our country, and we talked about how difficult it is to go and be the voice of freedom when you don't really have freedom yet, because the old unwritten laws of segregation. A great thing jazz has done for our country, and here we're being sent out to do it for the world.
The tour was to begin in Poland, but this meant traveling through East Germany.
East Berlin was not recognized by the United States, so they assigned Madame Gunderlach, that for some reason could go through the Brandenburg Gate. The whole scene was like a spy movie. She told me to get in the trunk of her car. I said I won't get in the trunk of her car. I'll get in the back seat, and if I get questioned, I'm going to tell them the truth. But she got through. She brought us to a police station, and this man walked into the room and said, "You are Mr. Kulu." And I said, "No, I'm Mr. Brubeck." And he said, "No, you Kulu." Then he pulled out a Polish paper with a picture of me, and the caption said, "Mr. Kulu." And I realized I was Mr. Cool, and that was my name. Many of the ideas that we developed for Time Out came from touring in these countries, like Blue Rondo a Turk. That's a Turkish folk beat. And then it goes into a blues.
4/4, 2.
Brubeck returned to the U.S. with a complete vision of the time signature experiments for Time Out. For his album of cool rhythmic innovation, Brubeck decided that drummer Joe Morello was to be given a showcase.
I heard Joe playing this beat backstage, and I said, "We'll have something in 5/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5."
That's right up my alley, man. You know, it's just spontaneous. I was looking for more colors, you know, different textures of sound.
I said, "Boy, this is fine. This is going to work." Time Out was going where I envisioned jazz should go.
Jazz history had been written in 4/4 time. And you get Dave Brubeck doing a whole album with the idea of using different time signatures.
Columbia told me, "All these crazy time signatures, that'll never sell." But the disc jockeys started playing this. We had a big hit.
The idea that jazz could actually make it onto pop radio in America in the late 50s, that was totally unheard of. What really works well with Time Out is that it provides an easy introduction for mainstream America to deal with new musical ideas.
Toward the end of 1959, the Ornette Coleman Quartet came to New York for the very first time with the prophetically titled The Shape of Jazz to Come. They were all but unknown, but those who were hip to the scene were there to check out the band's New York debut at the 5 Spot.
We couldn't wait. Went down to the 5 Spot and had a rehearsal one afternoon, and then we opened up. There were lines around the block. The place was packed with people, so it was quite a deal.
The opening night, they had everybody. Everybody was there, and so he was kind of on auditory trial, so to speak.
And we couldn't wait to get to work and play because the music was so great and new and fresh.
And that's when The Shape of Jazz to Come is, dropped on the New York jazz scene.
That first night of Ornette's was a sacral impact and unforgettable. I don't think I ever heard 4 musicians who gave me the impression of surrounding me. I was in the middle of it. Bang.
We all know the atomic bomb is very dangerous. We must get ready for it. Duck and cover. Atta boy, Tony. Act fast.
Coleman spoke the paranoia that existed in the nuclear age. The reaction that many people had just to this idea that the entire world could be blown up.
To play music with this urgency, this desperate urgency to make something new that's never been before, as if you're on the front line and you're risking your life for every note you play.
Well, I was there the opening night, and I was really unprepared for the hostility. I was sitting next to Roy Eldridge, and Roy was a warm, generous guy, and he was listening to Ornette, and he said, "He's just jiving, man. That's not music."
People were saying it was random, it was chaotic, it was this or that.
There were people who became angry at the music and let it be known that they hated it.
In New York, everything was under suspicion. And I didn't know about being under suspicion. I just thought about picking up my horn, activating the idea that's going through my nervous system.
This guy had extreme nerve. See the things that Ornette would play, even today you actually cannot believe that he played them, just the sheer audacity of it.
In New York, Ornette Coleman playing his white plastic sax was considered pretty out there, too.
It looked kind of funny because, as people said, "Oh, well, what happened to the candy that was inside it when you bought it?"
He got a great sound out of this instrument, man. You wouldn't think it was plastic. We'd be playing and I'd say, "Oh my God, I hope this horn don't melt, man. This cat's playing." So it's heavy stuff, you know.
It's hard to understand a negative reaction to that. Something so fabulous. I mean, like, what would people object to in it? I can't even imagine it. He changed everything. He changed everything. The whole approach, the way of looking at it, the style of it, the sound.
He influenced people that don't even know he influenced them, who like think they hated the music. You know, it gets into you because you can't help it. Maybe that's what upset them so much.
I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I want to be as human as I can get, believe me. And there's nothing I'm trying to hide. There's nothing I'm trying to climb above. There's nothing I'm trying to destroy. No one is going to suffer from what the human race does because it's not going to destroy itself. It's going to improve itself. Music is something that, to me, is nothing but the sound of your emotions. It's your heart, it's your feelings, it's your belief, it's your ability, and most of all, it's your love. And what's so beautiful about it, it's not destructive. It's always something that gets better.
'59 was a really important year in jazz because you had some of the greatest musicians in the world playing a response to what had been played, but was also a response to what could be played. The art was advanced in 1959. Another set of choices were provided for everybody.
Miles Davis' Kind of Blue has become jazz's best-selling album, hugely influential from its 1959 release right up until today.
Kind of Blue definitely changed music. It just kind of opened up the horizon for jazz expression.
Miles would go on to influence the course of jazz many more times. Dave Brubeck still continues to follow his own groove, and Time Out remains a high point of jazz innovation.
With Time Out, it finally happened the way we all dreamt of it. It stood the test of time, this one.
Charles Mingus, a political as well as musical force, is now recognized as being among the 20th century's most important composers. Mingus Aham remains a prime work by this unpredictable genius.
He was sharing his emotions about life. The message he always said to his sidemen was play yourself. And you could extend this to all of us. Play yourself, be who you are.
But the record that has most changed jazz in this last half-century is Ornette Coleman's The Shape of Jazz to Come. It came out of nowhere and fired a starting gun on new forms of music. The LP still sounds radical.
He's divisive even to this day. Being divisive is a defining element almost to Ornette Coleman's music.
The legacy of The Shape of Jazz to Come will be to create no boundaries, to play new music as much as you can, not to be satisfied with the status quo.